Good morning. Welcome to Pecan Corner. I'm Tina, and today I'm going to make biscuits. This is the recipe that I use to make the biscuits that I sell at the farmer's market. It's the ones that we eat at home. Last year I used a sourdough biscuit recipe, and that sold really well. But I wanted something a little fluffier, and so I switched over to this recipe. I'm using 4 cups of flour. I'm using white flour, but you could use your whole wheat if you want to. Okay. I also need to make 1.5 cups of milk with some vinegar in it. I don't buy commercial buttermilk anymore because it's not real buttermilk. It's got all kinds of stuff added to it, thickeners and preservatives and things. So I just use plain milk and add a little vinegar to clabbered. A couple of teaspoons, about there we go, 3 or 4 teaspoons of milk of vinegar will do the trick. If you don't have vinegar, lemon juice will do it, but I always use just plain white vinegar. All right, now that's going to sit there and clabber. Now I need salt, sugar, baking soda, and baking powder. Salt. There we go. One teaspoon salt. Doesn't need much salt, surprisingly. But that's because it has 3 teaspoons of baking powder, or 2 excuse me, 2 tablespoons of baking powder in it. And 1 teaspoon of baking soda. We're using baking soda because we have the acidic milk. I think this just makes a better biscuit. If you were making this with plain sweet milk and not acidifying it, you wouldn't need to add the soda to this recipe. And where are we at here? 4 teaspoons of sugar. It's a tablespoon and a teaspoon. These freeze really well too. When I make them for us at home, I make them up and put a piece of sausage in them and pop them in the freezer, and then all we have to do is heat them up for Paul. Let me find them. I cut my butter with. Mise en place, mise en place. Always been bad at that. When I took home ec in school, I always invariably lost points on all my cooking projects because I never did get everything I needed before I started. I always forgot something. I'm cutting up 2 sticks of cold butter. You want your butter cold. And I use real butter in these. And I call them Buttery Biscuits because of that. I mean, two sticks of butter, that's going to be a good batch. I've tried making them with lard, and they're okay, but they're a little bit crumbly. I also forgot to mention when I'm making my sour milk here, that's another thing that I've used whey for in the past when I had whey that our friends gave us. It's slightly acidic, and I have used it in making biscuits before, and it works out really well. All right, now I just cut the biscuits, the butter up just to make it a little bit easier to handle. But now I'm going to use my pasta. I swear I'm losing vocabulary here. my pastry cutter to cut all this butter in. But some days it's easier to just use your hands, and I think this may be one of them. In the summertime, the butter is, even when it's cold, it seems to go together easier than the winter. There we go. If you don't have one of these, you know, it's nice to use because you don't get it all up in your fingernails and things. But I don't have manicures, so it doesn't hurt me to get my hands down in it. But the pastry cutter is very nice if you do have a manicure and you want to protect your nails. But you can just mix it with your hands. Just mash up all that butter into it. The thing is you don't want the butter to be melted and warm. You want it to stay in globules, and that's why a lot of times you try to use a tool instead of your hands, because the warmth of your hands can kind of melt the butter and affect it. But you know, you can use 2 knives. We learned in school to take 2 butter knives and do like this with them, and that works. But this butter is really stiff, and it doesn't. It's going to take me a few minutes, so I'm going to put you on hold for a second while I finish this up. All right, I've got it together here now. It's funny how you can do something 50 times, it works fine, and you stick a camera in front of it and it won't do what it normally does. All right, I've got this crumbled in to the point where it kind of looks like meal. You know, it's kind of got a crumbly look to it. Now, I'm just going to use a spatula here. Get these things out of the way. And I'm going to mix in my milk. You can also use a fork to stir it together. You do not want to beat these. All I want to do is stir them gently. Okay, now I'm going to pour it out onto a floured surface. Okay, and now I'm just going to pat this gently together. I'm not going to knead it. Don't want to knead it. The secret to flaky, tender biscuits is to touch them as little as possible. And you'll notice I'm not going to use a rolling pin. I don't roll my biscuits out. I just pat them out because the height that they are when you roll them out affects the height that they will be when they're cooked. Okay, now then. When I'm making them for us, I use this small cutter because I fill them with sausage, and I want Paul likes to have the biscuit the same size as the sausage. When I make them to sell, I use this can with the ends cut out of it, because it makes a nice big biscuit. It looks nicer and more generous. I'll be right back because I need to get my container or these ready. Okay, finally. I've just greased my pan. I use a cookie sheet because I make this big batch. If you were dividing the batch in half and making a smaller batch, it would you could use a different kind of a pan. And a pan with sides on it would be just fine. I have, like I said, I have greased the bottom of the pan. I'm going to put them almost touching each other so that they'll keep the sides soft. I'm not preheating my oven yet because I'm going to put these into the refrigerator for about half an hour before I put them in the oven. Oops, need a little bit more flour there on my cutter. It's sticking. Okay, and then I'm just taking my leftovers and just kind of squishing them together. They don't make a pretty biscuit, but they still taste good because I don't want to handle them that too much. All right, there we go. Now I'm going to put these into the refrigerator for half an hour. All right, these have been chilling for 30 minutes in the refrigerator, and now I'm putting them straight into the hot 450-degree oven, and I'm going to bake them for about 16 minutes, 16 to 17. Right, got my timer set, and while they're cooking, I'm going to make some sausage to go with them. Okay, they're all baked and they're ready to eat. I open them using a fork, just like you would an English muffin, and see how tender and flaky that is on the inside. They came out beautiful and tall and perfect. All right, thanks a bunch. I hope that you will enjoy these, and if you like it, please give us a thumbs up and please subscribe.